Good morning, everyone. Sarah Outlaw here from Natural Health Improvement Center of South Jersey, Real Food Outlaws and 90210 Organics. I am coming to you live from my kitchen at Outlaw Acres because I wanted to talk to you today about how to cook grain-free. So I'm going to be doing a very short, abbreviated version of my grain-free cooking 101 class for you all today. So a lot of people who come to see me at my office test negatively for grains. They can't eat grains. And they're not sure why, because if grains are in the Bible, then how come you can't eat them? If there's the land flowing with milk and honey, and talking about the wheat and the barley and all those things, why are these things so hard for the body to digest? Well, grains are difficult to digest, and they're inflammatory to the gut because they contain anti-nutrients such as lectins. And these things cause a lot of inflammation, and especially if someone has an autoimmune disease or has leaky gut or impermeable gut. So what we've noticed is that if someone is unhealthy, they have trouble digesting the grains. So I hope you can join me today. I'm going to drink my tea here. I have some lemon balm mint tea, and grab a cup of tea, sit back and relax, and we're going to spend about 20 minutes or so talking about why grains are unhealthy, and then also giving you reasons why you can, or how you can do your own grain-free cooking in your own home and how easy it is. So don't be afraid of grain-free cooking. It's not that hard. So how do you know if you're reacting to grains? So most people who come in to see me have digestive issues. They are having bloating, gas, stomach problems, diarrhea, constipation, alternating back and forth. They're having some type of reaction that is really messing them up digestively. Every time they eat, they get a stomach ache. And when you eat, you should feel great. Your food is supposed to make you feel really, really awesome after you eat. You're not supposed to eat your food and feel tired or bloated or gassy or gross. You're supposed to feel energized, and you're supposed to feel good. So if your food is making you feel bad after you eat it, then it's probably bad for you, and you shouldn't be eating it anymore. So some of the things that we have noticed in our practice is that people aren't able to properly digest grains when they have digestive issues. I think of the gut kind of like, if you think of the intestines and what they look like, how if they're inflamed and you have stomach ache, think of them as bright red. You don't want them to be bright red. You want them to be nice and pink and calm, right? So eating the right foods will help that to happen. Most people do not have to eliminate grains forever. So whenever we recommend an elimination diet, it's only for the specific grains that they test negatively for, and it's only for a short time. And we also find the underlying immune system issue that's probably pushing that autoimmune type reaction to their foods. And once we get that immune system issue out of the way, you can eat good quality grains again. So it's not a death sentence for you. You don't have to eliminate these foods forever. So what I'm going to do today is talk to you a little bit about how to cook with without grains, and what kind of flours are good alternatives and how to use them properly. So one of the main flours that a lot of people use is organic coconut flour. So organic coconut flour is a substitute for regular flour, but it can't be used in batter 1-for-1. Like you can't use, if you have a recipe that has wheat flour, you can't put 2 cups of coconut flour for wheat flour. It's not the same, it doesn't translate. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit. Also, tapioca. So I've got my tapioca home somewhere over here. So tapioca flour is something that I use a lot of. And also arrowroot flour. Now I use this in cooking, and I also use it to make my homemade deodorant. So this is something that you can use in multiple areas of natural living, not just cooking. So the other one we also use a little bit, I don't use this very much, is potato starch. I rarely use this one because I don't really need it as much as the others, but it is there if we need it. And also we've got our almond flour. Now I always use super fine almond flour with my cooking because it's great for baking and it's not gritty. I don't really like gritty food. If your kids have texture issues, like a lot of kids do, then you're gonna have trouble with gritty type flours. Coconut flour can be gritty in recipes unless you cook with it properly. So you don't have to worry too much about that if you know how to cook with it. The other one is cassava flour, and this is from yucca root, and this is super popular these days. A lot of people use this as well. There's some really, really good cassava flour tortilla chips that are corn-free that I like by the company Siete, and they're really, really good. If you can't get them in your local health food store, then you can definitely order them online. Another thing that I like to do is sometimes if I'm feeling really lazy and I don't want to make my own grain-free pancake batter, I will buy a batch of this. This is Birch Bender's pancake and waffle mix, and it is grain-free, gluten-free, no added sugar, and it's with almonds, coconut, cassava, eggs, and monk fruit. So if you are sensitive to eggs, then you're not going to be able to eat this, but if you're not sensitive to eggs, then this is a good one to use. And you just add water. So when we went camping last weekend, excuse the noise, it's my cats. Cats, shush. When I went camping this weekend, this was a really good addition to our breakfast because I just had to add water and it was good to go. So with coconut flour, so when you're cooking with coconut flour, if your recipe calls for 1 cup of wheat, then you're going to be using 1/3 of a cup of coconut flour instead of that 1 cup of wheat. So like I said, it's not 1 for 1. So 1/3 of a cup of coconut flour equals 1 cup of wheat flour. You're going to increase your eggs by 1 egg per ounce of flour. So every ounce of flour that you use, you're going to have 1 more egg. So you're going to have lots of eggs. So you're going to increase your liquids as well. So you're going to need more liquids with coconut flour. So the best bet if you're new to coconut flour cooking is not to try to do your own recipe. Look on a blog, look on some recipe books. I have some on my blog at realfoodoutlaws.com. You can actually find really good recipes using coconut flour. It's already converted for you. Once you get to be an expert at the conversions, then go ahead and transfer your recipes and translate your recipes. Right now, when you're starting, it's probably not a good idea because coconut flour can be really nasty if it's not prepared properly. All right, so some tips for cooking with almond flour, which actually is my favorite. I really like to use almond flour. It's really, really versatile. I like the way it tastes. And it has a really good texture. I actually don't like, after eating almond flour baked goods, I don't like going back to eating the wheat stuff. It's not as good. So the finer the grind, the better the baked goods will turn out. You have that really nice, flaky, delicious food. If you use coarse ground flour, your product will be grainy and the texture will be as if you added nuts to the batter. Now, if you like that, fine, but I know my kids prefer things to taste the way they did before we went grain-free. So nut flours burn really easily, so you need to watch the oven really, really carefully. Most of my recipes will call for a lower baking temperature and a longer time than you would use with a normal wheat flour recipe. So keep a close eye on your baked goods. All ovens heat differently. I moved to this farmhouse about a year ago, and this oven heats very differently. It's an electric stove compared to my gas oven at my other house. So when I first moved here, I burned a few things. So you really have to be careful in watching your food because it will burn. You can always put a little tin around the cover, around the edges of your things if you want them to not burn, like if you're doing a pie crust. I noticed that almond flour pie crusts, while delicious, will burn really, really easily. You can store almond flour in your refrigerator. That helps it to not go rancid. And it can last there about 6 to 8 months. You can also store it in the freezer and then just let it thaw out on the counter for about 30 minutes before you use it. Almond meal is different than almond flour. So if you go to a store like Trader Joe's or Wegmans and you see the Bob's Red Mill flour or the Trader Joe's brand and you see the dark brown flecks in with the almond flour, that's almond meal. That's a little bit different. That's when they grind the almonds with the skin on. So the finely ground almond meal is just gonna be like this. I don't know if you can see, it's just pretty much that white opaque color, but if you have almond meal, which I don't use, it's going to have the skins on it. So it's harsh, the skins are actually harsher to digest, even though they have a little more nutrition in them. Almond flour that we use for baking is blanched almonds with the skins removed. My cakes and cookies turn out much nicer with the finely textured flour rather than the coarse stuff. So that's what I prefer. Grain-free substitutions. So as you're switching your kitchen over from grains to grain-free, the flours that you can use are, as I mentioned, coconut flour, almond flour, cashew, tapioca. There's arrowroot, there's sweet potato flour, there's the cassava. And then when you're cooking grain-free and you want to take away things like rice and those types of foods, you can do cauli rice, which is cauliflower shredded in the food processor, and it becomes rice-like and can be sauteed and seasoned to mimic rice. So it's actually really, really good. A lot of people really like it. Zoodles are my favorite. So I have some really awesome zoodle recipes on my blog, so make sure you check those out. They're so good. My favorite is zoodles and clams because I really love seafood a lot, and the zoodles and clams recipe is really, really good. So zoodles can be made using a vegetable spiralizer, which you can get on Amazon. Just get a spiralizer from there. It's super easy and super cheap. And they take the place of pasta. So sweet potatoes, squash, other vegetables can be spiralized and made into pasta. Usually during the summer is the best time to make zoodles because these vegetables are in season. In the winter time, you can just move into things like spaghetti squash and the acorn squash and those types of things that are more in season. I prefer to eat seasonally. I feel like it's better for the body. So if you can eat seasonally, that is much better for you. So hit up your farmer's market if you can, and then in the winter, see if there's any winter CSAs that you can join. CSA means Community Supported Agriculture, and if you look at the Weston A. Price Foundation website, you can find your local Weston A. Price Foundation leader. I'm the leader for Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and you can send an email to your leader in your area and ask them for a resource list of all the Community Supported Agriculture and farmers markets and organic farms in your area, and they'll send you a comprehensive list. If you want my list, just put your email in the comments and I'll send you out the email with the Cherry Hill area, South Jersey area resources. My pleasure to do that for you. So the other, keeping on our, not getting off on tangents here, so we've got coconut aminos. One of my favorite things is coconut aminos, and it's a substitute for soy sauce that tastes a lot better than soy sauce. You can get that at Thrive Market, which is online, which is a discount kind of a shopping place, or you can get it at Wegmans or Whole Foods or Mom's Market if you live near one of those. And you can use that one for one in any recipe. I have a really, really awesome recipe that I love. It is a grain-free General Tso's chicken. It's on the Delicious Obsessions website, and it is our family's favorite, and I use the coconut aminos in that instead of soy sauce, and it's absolutely delicious. My kids tell me that it tastes like authentic Japanese food, even though it's not soy sauce, so it's really, really good. So coconut milk and almond milk are great substitutions for dairy. They're easily made with a high-powered blender and a nut milk bag, so all you have to do with almond milks and coconut milk is find a recipe online and follow it. It usually takes like 5 minutes to make, so it's really easy to cook grain-free. Yucca is cassava, but yucca in its root form, which I don't have any today, it can be peeled, boiled, and blended to make a dough for everything from pizza to pierogies. It also makes delicious fries. One of my favorite bloggers to do that has recipes on her blog is Predominantly Paleo. If you go to predominantlypaleo.com, Jennifer has some really awesome recipes on how to do yucca recipes. Really good. I've made her pierogies and made a lot of her stuff, and I really like them. So you can also use chia, flax, and grass-fed gelatin as egg substitutes. So if you can't have eggs, just mix them with water. Delicious Obsessions blog has really good how-tos on how to do that as well. So it's really, really easy to cook grain-free, and also there's lots of really good blogs that show you how to do that. So a couple of blogs that I really like for grain-free that I'm going to mention, so I'm going to give some shout-outs to. So tips on using grain-free flours, you can go to agirlworthsaving.net, and she has some really good recipes. There's my blog, Real Food Outlaws. There's Paleo Mom, Against All Grain, Rubies and Radishes, Honey Ghee and Me, Predominantly Paleo, Health Starts in the Kitchen. There's so many websites, so many blogs that I really, really like that really show a lot about grain-free cooking. One of my favorite recipes is grain-free sandwich wraps. So I'm just going to pull that up on my computer really quickly so I can tell you how to make it. I'm not going to show you how to make it because I'm not really sure if I'm ready for cooking live yet in case things go wrong, but I will tell you how to make it. It's my favorite because it's easy, and even my kids can make it, and you can make it egg-free, which is really, really important for people who have egg sensitivities. More people have egg sensitivities than they realize. So you can go to realfoodoutlaws.com, pull up the grain-free sandwich wraps, which I'm doing right now, and you'll see a very pretty picture that I took of those grain-free sandwich wraps, and there's two recipes. There's two versions that you can do. The first version is with eggs, and it calls for 2 cups of blanched almond flour, 2 cups of arrowroot or tapioca, either or, 1 teaspoon of aluminum-free baking powder, half a teaspoon of sea salt or real salt. You can get real salt. If you look up real salt, you can see why I like it, because it's got a lot of minerals in it. 4 tablespoons of gelatin, so collagen. I use collagen in there. I use collagen in pretty much everything because it adds amino acids and proteins to everything that I make, and you can sneak protein into your baked goods, and your kids are getting more protein, and so are you. And most of the people who come and see me in my office are protein deficient. They're not eating enough. I've noticed a lot of people have protein issues. If you're aging, so if you can see, I don't have any wrinkles, and I'm in my late 30s, and that's because I take collagen, and I drink water, and I take really good care of my skin. I use Beauty Counter products and take really good care of my skin, and I eat well. So I am not aging as rapidly as some other people that I've seen, especially patients who are the same age as me who look much older. And that is because if you take care of your body and eat the right foods, your body will thank you by keeping you young. And that's really important, especially for me. So egg-free alternative recipe is my favorite. I actually like the egg-free version better because it's easier. I don't have to crack eggs, for one thing. So it's 1 cup of almond flour, 1 cup of tapioca or arrowroot, 2 3/4 cups of water, less for thicker wraps, more for thinner wraps. If you want more of like a crepe type wrap, then you'll put less water in, and 1/2 of a teaspoon of salt. You can double the recipe if you'd like. A lot of times I will double the recipe because I like to make a lot. This makes about 8, I believe. So that way I don't have to worry about making 2 batches later, because I'd rather just make them all at once. It's much easier. A lot of people who have made these, and I've never had this problem unless I've messed up the recipe. So I use, where is it? Let me see if I can find it. Hang on one second. I'm gonna go out the frame. I use a Le Creuset, you can see it's seasoned very well, cast iron skillet to make these in, and this is super heavy. You can really actually kill somebody with this. I use that, and I've never had any problems with it sticking unless I've messed up the recipe. So I had a couple of people come back to me and tell me that the recipe failed. Well, I hate to tell you, but it's probably user error, because this recipe's never failed unless I've mixed up the ratio. So it's 1 for 1, and you have to make sure your pan is really hot. You have to use some type of non-stick pan. I don't recommend aluminum. You can use cast iron is the best. I've only done it in cast iron. I don't know if it works in another pot. So if you tried it in another pot, I can't guarantee that it will work. But this has always worked for me. We've had wonderful grain-free wraps. Everyone raves about them. They're delicious. So that's one recipe that you can use to substitute for regular wraps. And you can kind of see, if I can show you, I don't know if you can see it, but the picture on here, see them? Aren't they cool? Aren't they pretty? They're so pretty. They look like pancakes, and they're super durable. I actually make Mexican food with them. I make burritos out of them. I've made sandwich wraps out of them. Made cheesesteaks, make a little like a gyro out of those, and they're really, really good. You can also make really, really good pumpkin bread and zucchini bread and those types of things. I have some grain-free cake recipes on my website that are delicious. My favorite chocolate cake recipes on there. And these are things that don't use any refined sugars. They use very little natural sugar, so you're actually not getting a whole lot per serving. And they're really, really nice for a sweet treat on occasion. I think that, well, I know that sugar is sugar, no matter how natural it seems. So if you're putting honey on things and maple syrup on those types of things, sugar is sugar. And if your health is compromised, even those natural sugars are going to be an issue for your body. But when you're healthy, those little bits of natural sugars like raw honey are actually going to be beneficial in a way, because they can help with replenishing enzymes and minerals and those types of things. They can even help with seasonal allergies. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section. Feel free to go visit my blog for more information about grain-free cooking and a whole bunch of recipes at realfoodatlas.com. If you are local to the Cherry Hill area, I am doing a talk on Tuesday evening, the 12th, on how to stay healthy during cold and flu season. And the following Tuesday, I'm doing a talk on herbal medicine for children's health. So if you're local to Cherry Hill area, make sure you go to Natural Health Improvement Center of South Jersey Facebook page and find out that information. And feel free to ask me questions and leave comments, and also leave me other video ideas that you would like me to do. Have a great day, everybody. I'll see you soon.